Part 1 of Galaxy on Fire. Corral, a member of the Alarian race from a noble family, was born on the planet Alara, a world renowned for its rich culture and advanced technology. As a young Alarian, Corral showed great promise as a warrior, demonstrating exceptional skill and unwavering dedication to the protection of his people. His striking, white-hued appearance and refined features were common among his race, which bore a remarkable resemblance to humankind. Over time, Corral rose through the ranks, garnering accolades and earning the respect of his peers. He played a crucial role in several pivotal battles that defined Alara's history, securing his status as a legendary warrior. However, the weight of his experiences in war, coupled with a deep desire to establish lasting peace, eventually led him to seek a new path. Having retired from active duty, Corral channeled his passion for serving his people into the realm of governance. With a steadfast commitment to fostering unity and prosperity, he was honored with the appointment of regional governor for a new colony on the distant fertile world of Surifam. In this new capacity, Corral drew upon the strategic acumen and determination that had distinguished him as a warrior, steering the burgeoning colony towards a thriving future under his guidance. On a routine journey, Corral returned to Alara to attend a periodic summit of regional governors presided over by the High Consul. The visit proceeded as expected, filled with meetings, reunions with family and friends, and preparations for his imminent departure. Unlike his fellow governors who preferred to linger on Alara, Corral held a deep fondness for Surifam and was eager to return to his governance duties. As per tradition, the governors were provided with sleek diplomatic vessels, engineered for speed as a defensive measure. The underlying philosophy was that diplomatic ships should remain unarmed, and the ability to outrun danger would serve as their most effective line of defense. Corral boarded his ship, opting to forgo the assistance of a pilot as he was well versed in its operation. As he meticulously checked the systems and initiated takeoff procedures, an unusual communication caught his attention. Reports of mysterious blackouts and powerful electromagnetic interference were being relayed, symptoms typically associated with intense solar flares. Yet, strangely enough, no such phenomena had been detected by the relevant monitoring agency. As Corral's ship lifted off from the bustling capital, all communication channels abruptly went silent. In the distance, flashes illuminated the horizon, followed by a shockwave that rocked his vessel. Drawing on his piloting skills, he managed to maintain control, only to bear witness to a horrifying scene. Countless ships surrounding him began to plummet towards the planet's surface. Realizing that his diplomatic ship's additional shielding and protective measures might be the sole reason he remained airborne, a wave of dread washed over him. Suddenly, the sky filled with Alarian fighter squadrons, their swift forms disappearing into the horizon as they raced to confront the unseen threat. In their wake, countless flashes pierced the gloom, accompanied by laser and railgun slugs that left crimson trails in the atmosphere. Corral's heart sank as he understood the magnitude of the danger facing his world. Continuing to ascend, he reached the edges of the atmosphere just in time to observe the remnants of the once mighty fighter force, now reduced to a mere handful of surviving ships. These desperate stragglers were closely pursued by thousands of unfamiliar alien vessels, their weapons relentlessly targeting the Alarian defenders. As Corral's presence was detected, a small group of the alien ships broke off from the main force and began to close in on him. Their intent was clear. They sought to capture or destroy Corral and his diplomatic vessel. With time running out, Corral knew he would need to rely on his wits, experience, and the advanced capabilities of his ship to evade his pursuers. With his pursuers closing in, Corral pushed his ship to its limits, aiming for one of Alara's 2 moons in a desperate bid for cover. His heart pounded as enemy fighters opened fire, their weapons streaking past his vessel. Relying on his skill and the superior handling of his ship, Corral managed to evade most of the incoming barrage, while his shields absorbed the few hits that managed to connect.
I can't keep this up,
he thought, realizing the moon wouldn't provide enough cover.
I'll have to attempt a space-bending jump to escape this system.
As the distance between Corral and Alara grew, his communication system suddenly sprang to life, overwhelmed with a cacophony of distress calls. It became chillingly apparent that the entire system, including all 3 colonized planets and Alara itself, was under attack by the dreaded Zalon Empire, a relentless force known for plundering planets and enslaving their inhabitants. Though little was known about this enigmatic enemy, it was believed that they originated from thousands of parsecs away. Corral's thoughts turned to Serifim, a distant colony over 8 parsecs from the besieged system, likely far from the reach of the Zalon forces. If he could make it there, he could regroup and formulate a plan to aid his people. Lost in a sea of horrifying images displaying the devastation of Alara's major cities, Corral's momentary distraction cost him dearly as his ship sustained several direct plasma bolt hits. His shields buckled under the onslaught, leaving his vessel exposed and vulnerable.
I have no choice,
he muttered, making the split-second decision to override the safety controls and engage the space-bending gyroscopic engines without properly calculating the jump trajectory. The inherent risks of such a maneuver were great, but with his ship on the verge of destruction, it was the only option left. As the space-bending engines engaged, Corral felt an intense vibration shudder through the ship. The damaged system, struggling to maintain stability, threw him from his seat, causing him to strike his head. Dazed and disoriented, he remained unconscious as the ship exited the space bend, now careening uncontrollably at a quarter of the speed of light. But it was enough. His ship had gotten clear of the system and away from the Zalon. Stirring slightly, Corral became dimly aware of the ship's warning system blaring an urgent message. The vessel was moments away from total failure, and the intensified curium fuel cell was on the verge of rupture, threatening a small nuclear explosion. Mustering every ounce of strength he could, Corral dragged himself through the spinning ship towards the escape pods, desperately seeking refuge. The first pod he reached was nearly destroyed, having sustained a direct hit from the enemy fighters. With time rapidly running out, Corral struggled onto the second pod, finding it somewhat damaged but still seemingly functional. The ship's warning system escalated in urgency, declaring the curium cell failure imminent and demanding immediate evacuation. Realizing he had no other choice, Corral fought against the G-forces generated by the spinning ship, struggling to open the escape pod's hatch. With a surge of adrenaline, Corral managed to pry open the hatch and throw himself into the escape pod. Stumbling to the control panel, he frantically slammed the eject button, only to be met with silence. He hit the button again and again, but still nothing happened. The ship's alarm blared through the pod's walls, signaling that time had run out. Resigning himself to his fate, Corral closed his eyes and braced for the inevitable explosion. This is it, he thought, his mind drifting back to memories of his beloved family, his cherished homeworld, and all that he had fought for. As the seconds stretched on, he found a strange sense of peace, accepting that even the greatest warriors could not escape their own mortality. Moments later, his ship exploded. Captain, my sensors have detected a space-time disruption in the nearby vicinity. I'm reading indications of an explosion, most likely from a vessel, reported Orion, the AI of the Phoenix Rising, a Mendelnite-built Corvette-class merchant ship. Dale Helios, a 31-year-old human and the sole crew member of the Phoenix Rising, felt a surge of uneasiness. The Phoenix Rising was more than just a vessel to him. It was home. Boasting a spacious cockpit designed for a crew of 4, the ship also featured 4 independent cabins, with the main one equipped with its own bathroom facilities. Additionally, a general bathroom, a cozy leisure area combined with a kitchen and a remarkably large cargo hold made the Phoenix Rising truly exceptional in both appearance and utility. Over time, Dale had made further modifications, equipping the ship with features considered illicit in several galactic realms.
The whole point of traveling along the Alarian interstellar-controlled routes was to avoid situations like this. Damn it,
Dale muttered, more to himself than to Orion. Nevertheless, the AI felt compelled to respond. I'm simply providing the information you'd expect from me, Captain, Orion stated. If you prefer not to be informed of such matters in the future, I can certainly refrain from doing so. Dale had initially believed that an AI with a personality would be a valuable asset on long voyages where human companionship was scarce. However, Orion's sensitivity and attitude sometimes made Dale question that decision, even though the AI had become deeply integrated with the ship and had proven to be a lifesaver on multiple occasions.
No, Orion. Just update me on any additional details,
Dale replied, scanning the sensors himself.
Are there any distress calls or emergency rescue messages? That energy signature looks like it could be from an escape pod.
I assure you, Captain, I would have notified you immediately if any distress calls have been detected, Orion said with a hint of condescension. Dale couldn't help but roll his eyes.
Yeah, there's that attitude again, he said. Maybe I should consider initiating a minor electrical malfunction to your server.
Orion stayed quiet. Carefully maneuvering the Phoenix Rising towards the faint energy reading, Dale soon discovered a battered Alarian escape pod from a diplomatic vessel. "Captain, my sensors are detecting a weak life sign within the pod," Orion reported. "However, its life support systems appear to be failing." Dale sighed, knowing he would have to intervene.
Great. It's probably an Alarian official, too. Not exactly the kind of company I want aboard my ship, considering the illicit tech I've got installed, he thought to himself. Well, at least Alarians can survive in our atmosphere, so no need to adjust the ship's climate. Orion, bring us as close to the pod as possible. I'll don my spacesuit and manually attach a boarding tube, Dale instructed. The pod looks pretty banged up, so I'll have to seal the tube from the outside. I hope it's a charming Alarian female ambassador, and not some crotchety old dignitary. Dale mused, chuckling to himself at the absurdity of his own thoughts. It's been ages since I've crossed paths with an attractive female.
Dale's recent journey to Stellar Delta 6, a Wiforian agricultural planet, had been successful, though the Wiforians, a hexapod species resembling octopuses, were not particularly appealing to the eye. Despite their appearance, he managed to acquire a full load of rare Asaurianist tea at a favorable price, knowing that its high demand among the Alarians would guarantee a substantial profit margin. As Orion skillfully positioned the Phoenix Rising beside the damaged pod, Dale donned his spacesuit and ventured out to manually attach the boarding tube to the pod's hatch. Once the tube was secured and sealed, he made his way back into the Phoenix Rising and entered the pod through the tube. Floating inside the pod's cockpit was an unconscious Alarian, the victim of malfunctioning gravity stabilizers. Dale couldn't help but grimace at the sight.
Figures. A crusty old man, he thought to himself. Just my luck.
With the efficiency of a seasoned soldier, Dale transported the injured Alarian back to his ship and began administering first aid using the Phoenix Rising's well-stocked medical kit. Satisfied that he had provided adequate care, Dale left the Alarian to rest on a bed in one of the Phoenix Rising's cabins. Turning his attention to the mystery at hand, he set about downloading information from the escape pod's computer, hoping to uncover the events that had led to the Alarian's predicament. Although he successfully retrieved the records, they were encrypted, and he tasked Orion with deciphering them. "I was already en route to Alara, and this guy's Alarian, so we might as well stick to the original plan," Dale reasoned. "It's probably the best course of action until we know more." As he continued to ponder the situation, the Phoenix Rising's long-range communication equipment picked up a flurry of distorted messages. Thousands of them. The jumbled transmissions reminded Dale of military-grade scrambling he had encountered during his time in war zones. Just as he began to consider possible explanations, Orion's voice rang out over the speakers. "Our guest is regaining consciousness." As Corral regained consciousness, he found himself in an unfamiliar room, his head and right arm wrapped in bandages. A strange jelly-like substance had been applied to his wounds and bruises, its purpose a mystery to him. The design, technology, and decor of the room were all foreign, and he couldn't help but notice that the gravity felt slightly stronger than he was accustomed to. His grogginess and disorientation began to dissipate as memories of his recent ordeal flooded back. Attempting to stand, Coral found his legs weak and unstable. He was on the verge of collapsing when Dale appeared, catching him before he hit the floor.
"Careful now," Dale cautioned. "You'll be all right, but you need to rest. You're safe here. I've examined your injuries, and my scans show that you have no major issues. Plus, all your bioelectronics, including your implanted translator, seem to be functioning correctly. I noticed that your physiology is surprisingly similar to my species, so I applied some medical gel that should help with the swelling and treat your burns."
A human? What brings you so far from Earth?
Corral inquired. His curiosity piqued. Dale was taken aback, as few species he encountered in this region of space were familiar with humans.
"I'm a long-range goods trader," Dale replied, intentionally keeping his response vague and succinct. "I detected an explosion and, upon investigating, found your escape pod. You were the only survivor I came across. I hope there was no one else with you."
"No, I was alone," Corral assured him. "Thank you for coming to my rescue. I am Governor Corral de Corin, but you may call me Corral."
Dale raised an eyebrow, intrigued by Corral. "My name is Dale. Are you familiar with humans? It's unusual for someone to identify me so easily."
I served alongside humans in the third quadrant, specifically in the Auriga subquadrant during the pacification war of Zorban.
Corral revealed, his tone guarded. From Dale's appearance and demeanor, Coral suspected that the human's background extended beyond that of a mere merchant. Perhaps he had ties to Earth's long-range intelligence services.
A pleasure to meet you, Dale,
Coral said, maintaining an air of caution. Dale, sensing Coral's wariness, couldn't help but feel uneasy himself. A governor and ex-military man traveling alone on a ship that exploded, something isn't adding up, he thought. The sooner I can drop this guy off, the better.
I'm en route to Alara, just one space jump away, Dale explained. As soon as my ship's quantum capacitors recharge, we can make the jump.
Coral's eyes widened with alarm. No, you can't go to Alara. The entire system has been overrun by the Zarlon. I urgently need your help to reach Surifem instead. I must insist.
Dale's uneasiness grew as he considered Coral's forceful request. It seemed his hope for a simple resolution to this situation was fading fast. Dale's mind raced as the pieces began to fall into place. The strange transmissions from Alara, the presence of a governor in a solitary escape pod. It all pointed to a larger, more complex situation. Yet, amidst these revelations, a more immediate concern arose. He was alone on the ship with a formidable-looking alien who might attempt to take control. Though confident in his ability to handle such a confrontation, Dale preferred to avoid it altogether. Just as he was mulling over these concerns, a chilling realization hit him. The Zarlon, what are they doing in this quadrant? Turning to Coral, Dale pressed for answers.
You mentioned the Zarlon. How did they get involved? And what are they doing so far from their territory? Suddenly, Dale barked orders to Orion. Stop the ship and get us off the Alarian interstellar-controlled route. Head for the nearest asteroid field, now!
Coral couldn't ignore the military precision of Dale's commands, and it was clear that both of them were holding back crucial information.
Dale, I am indebted to you and your crew, so please don't take this as a sign of disrespect, Coral began diplomatically. I propose we are honest with each other. First, how do you know about the Zarlon? And second, what is your background? Your actions seem to indicate military training.
The tension in the air was palpable as the two individuals, each with their own secrets, sized each other up. It was becoming increasingly evident that trust would be crucial if they were to navigate the dangers that lay ahead. Dale couldn't help but admire the Alarian's perceptiveness. Despite Dale's attempt to maintain a low profile, Coral had swiftly discerned his military background. Even so, Dale's instincts told him that Coral wasn't a threat. Nevertheless, caution was essential.
I worked as a military contractor for a few years, which is where I received my training,
Dale explained, deftly weaving truth with fiction.
After that, I decided to become a merchant, driven by a desire to learn about different cultures and civilizations across the galaxy. While learning about different cultures, I learned about the Zarlon. As for this ship, I'm the sole crew member.
Coral listened attentively, his disappointment at Dale's evasive response barely concealed. Still, he chose to reciprocate with a story of his own, a detailed account of the events leading up to his precarious escape from Alara. Upon concluding his tale, Coral posed a pointed question.
You mentioned you were headed to Alara for trade. What goods were you planning to deal in?
As he awaited Dale's response, a plan began to take shape in Coral's mind, a way to ensure Dale's cooperation in reaching Surifem.
My cargo bay is stocked with Asorianus tea, Dale replied, somewhat reluctantly.
Coral saw an opportunity. Dale, with Alara in its current state, selling your cargo there is out of the question. But as the governor of a significant Alarian colony planet, I can offer you the chance to sell your goods duty-free, on the condition that you take me to Surifem.
Dale weighed the proposal, uncertain of Surifem's location and still hesitant about the truth behind Coral's claims of a Zarlon invasion.
Would you allow me to review your ship's logs from the escape pod? Dale countered. I downloaded them but haven't been able to access the encrypted files. It would help confirm the situation with the Zarlon.
Coral considered Dale's request, recognizing the need for transparency if their tentative alliance was to hold.
Very well, he agreed. I'll provide you with the necessary access to verify the logs. Once you see the truth for yourself, I trust you'll understand the urgency of our mission.
As Coral provided the passkey, they prepared to review the audio and video logs on the monitor. The room fell silent save for the soft hum of the equipment. Neither of them was fully prepared for the harrowing scenes that were about to unfold before their eyes. The footage revealed a reality far more devastating than Coral had recalled. In his haste to escape the Zarlon fighters, he He hadn't noticed that the Alarian space fleet had been virtually obliterated outside Alora's orbit. The recording also showed the escape pod's launch mere moments before his ship was engulfed in a fiery explosion, emphasizing the slim margin by which Coral had evaded death. The shockwave from the blast had been responsible for his loss of consciousness. As the footage drew to a close, the gravity of the situation settled upon Dale and Corral, a solemn reminder of the urgency and importance of their journey to Seraphim. It was now painfully clear that time was of the essence, and they would need to put their full trust in one another if they were to overcome the daunting challenges ahead.
Orion, how many jumps will it take to reach Seraphim from our current location? Dale inquired, his focus shifting to the journey ahead.
3 jumps should suffice, Orion replied promptly. Corral, however, remained perplexed.
You mentioned that you're the sole crew member, yet you speak of someone named Orion. Who's this individual?
Just as Dale was about to respond, Orion chimed in, eager to introduce himself. I am Orion, the ship's artificial intelligence. You could say I'm the brains behind Dale's operation. He'd be utterly lost without me.
Enough, Orion, Dale interjected, a hint of exasperation in his voice. Not in front of our guest.
Corral's expression shifted to one of shock and terror.
You've granted an AI access to your ship's controls?
Dale, familiar with the Alarian history and their strict regulations surrounding artificial intelligence, had hoped to keep Orion under wraps upon their arrival on Alara.
Don't worry, Dale reassured Corral. This AI is a product of the Virox Consortium. They have a long-standing track record of producing functional, non-lethal AI.
Corral didn't look at all convinced, but what choice did he have? Dale mulled over Corral's proposal. The 3 jumps required to reach Seraphim would take at least 6 days, a significant amount of time to spend with a stranger. Despite his reservations, he recognized that the opportunity to sell his cargo duty-free was too enticing to pass up.
I accept your offer,
Dale conceded.
But with some conditions. While you may be a governor on your planet, I am the captain of this ship, and my authority is final while on board. Furthermore, I value my privacy, so I must ask that you respect my wishes if I choose not to discuss certain matters.
Coral nodded, a gesture that struck Dale as surprisingly human. As the two reached a tentative agreement, they acknowledged the uncertain and perilous journey that lay ahead. Their success would hinge on mutual trust and cooperation, as well as their combined skills and knowledge.
Orion, set a course for Seraphim using the backways, Dale commanded. Turning to Corral, he extended an olive branch. Governor, would you care for some Asaurianist tea?
The tension in the room dissipated slightly as the two settled into their new roles as reluctant allies.